Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Sig the Big here. My name is Cole Blenn, and I'm going to be the Big here, and...
This is Sig, coming at you live.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? How you doing here today? Talking here on Sig the Big today, we are going to be breaking down sports movies. And originally when we talked about this sports list here, we kind of talked about doing... just an all-around sports movies list, because I was like sitting here and I was like, man, how do I make a top 10 list of all the sports movies? But essentially we're going to break it into three different segments, three different episodes. This one we're going to talk about sports drama movies, or a little bit more of the serious sports movies. And then at a different point, we'll actually break down sports comedies, and then fighting movies are going to get a category of their own because there's just so many phenomenal ones. Ciglen, what do you think about sports movies, man? How has it kind of shaped you?
Oh, they're my favorite thing to watch. If you can't find something to do, there's nothing better than throwing on a good serious sports movie or even a funny classic. It's just a great way to pass the time and always something to go to bed to.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And yeah, I just, I've absolutely, grown up with sports movies. I think movies like, we're not going to talk about today, but like Waterboy absolutely just sat in my VHS player for months and months and months on end, and it's what I'd fall asleep to. So, probably some of the greatest movies what we grow up with, because there's a lot of storytelling in sports. So.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, you got to have a plot line. Like, personally, just like to break down a few of like honorable mentions that didn't quite make the list would be give me 1 second, I just gotta get to my list here.
You're good bringing up the list here. Just starting out the podcast, I do want to shout out to a couple of people who kind of helped make this happen. The Business Entertainment, Top Wave Studios for allowing us to record the business, for using the premises. We will be featuring them, I believe, probably this podcast is going to be dropping after our draft special, but they are going to be a huge part in making that happen for us. So super excited about it, and just kind of, seeing where we go from here.
But like some honorable mentions that I was going to say was like Invictus, how it's a great serious sports movie. It's probably in some other people's top 10, not personally in my top 10. Great movie. It just doesn't crack my top 10. But it's got everything you need. It's got a great storyline. It brings the drama, and it's got some great sports shots in it as well.
Well, I think another one I didn't have on my list, but that I always loved myself, was Rudy. Rudy's another one that I didn't top 10, but man, you talk about, the underdog story. I mean, it rivals David as far as popularity of the natural underdog story. You're talking about Rudy Rudiger coming from middle of shit nowhere in Indiana, walking on 4 or 5 years at Notre Dame, because I think he's actually like a student there beforehand and then joins the football team, and then he's like 27 or 28 by the time he actually gets on the field for his last game. And it's just a phenomenal story. If you don't know about the story of Rudy, I'm sorry about the rock you've been living under the past 50 years.
Yeah, definitely. That's in my honorable mentions too. That was on every other football trip. You would watch that one, so very acquainted with that movie.
Rudy, Waterboy.
Remember the Titans.
Remember the Titans was a hit one too.
We Are Marshall.
I was about to say, Remember the Titans I have on my list. Sentimental Reasons, fucking love that movie.
Oh, it's definitely on the list.
Yeah, I think if you're a millennial or, any Gen Zer, I think Remember the Titans, if you are a sports movie fan at all, that has to be at least in your top 10 list.
Oh, for sure.
Hands down, classic movie here. Any other kind of honorable mentions that you had at all?
We also have 42. Had it come out a little sooner, it might have cracked the top 10, been more of a classic. But I've only watched it 2 or 3 times, but I loved it every time. And R.I.P. Chadwick, one of my favorite actors of all time.
Yeah, rest in peace to Chadwick Boseman. Obviously the Black Panther. We miss him. Rest in power. But 42, I felt was a good movie, but it was just very Disneyed. Because there's a lot of really good like Disney done sports movies. So I think Glory Road is going to be another one that I probably honorable mention that I didn't include in my top 10 list. But I love Glory Road. It's the story of Texas Western, the first team to start 5 black players in the national championship game in the NCAA tournament. So phenomenal movie if you haven't seen that one there. But Disney, they do a good movie, but it's just almost too feel good.
See, and I feel that too. And I had a Disney sports movie on my honorable mentions as well with Invincible.
That one will be on my list, though. I feel like that one it's too good.
Didn't crack my top 10. I'd only watched it a handful of times. It's not one of those movies that I would go sit down and watch over and over again. But I did enjoy it, and it is in my honorable mentions for sure.
Oh, I've definitely seen it over and over again. I'm a huge Marky Mark fan. So, all right. Well, any other honorable mentions, or should we just kind of kick down into it?
I think we can get into it if you're ready.
All right, fuck it, A. Let's start it off at number 10 for you.
Gridiron Gang.
Solid movie. Solid movie. I love me some Gridiron Gang.
It's serious. You got The Rock in there. There's some good sports cuts. There's some drama. It's a real movie. It was like The Longest Yard without the comedy scenes.
Well, and there were still some funny moments, too. Obviously, some jokes cracked. But yeah, for the most part, you're talking about a very serious topic, you know, like an inner city youth detention center playing football.
Yeah. Great movie, though. Absolutely love it.
Oh, phenomenal movie. Yeah, I love Gridiron Gang. Because you had Exhibit starring in there as the assistant coach, too. I'm trying to think if there's any other, like, future stars. I feel like at the time, he played Tino Cruz in Coach Carter. And that's actually my number 10 is going to be Coach Carter.
Coach Carter.
Yeah, because it seemed like the guy who played Cruz in Coach Carter, he was in another movie I'm going to bring up too, The Rookie. But he was in The Rookie, Coach Carter. I believe he was in what you're talking about too. So fuck, I'm trying to remember this fucking actor's name. He was you know what I mean? He was the guy from Coach Carter who like walks out of practice the first day and then comes back and then he leaves the team again and then he comes back again. Like,
yeah, no, Coach Carter's a great movie. Solid film. That one used to run on HBO all the time when I was staying at Graham's during the summer.
True.
So I would watch that one off and on throughout the weeks multiple times. It was a good show to me.
Oh, I gotta love Coach Carter. Hold on here. And that was the thing with kind of like those mid-2000s like Disney run of movies is they just did phenomenal movies like Coach Carter, Invincible. You know, I think another one in the 90s that we didn't bring up for honorable mentions was Angels in the Outfield.
Oh, classic.
Classic movie.
Definitely in my honorable mentions, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's the reason I'm an Angels fan, not the whole Torrey Hunter thing. It was subliminal at first.
There you go.
That's how they get you.
I'm surprised I'm not an Angels fan then. Because I love that one.
We should all be Angels. Well, I guess I was kind of a Twins fan at first, both because of location, having family in Minnesota. And then the movie Little Big League as well. Like that was a phenomenal movie, or was it Manager of the Year? I forget the Henry Rowan Gardner and the Twins movie mixed up.
I couldn't tell you. I didn't watch very many baseball movies, but I have a few of them I do like.
Well, so there's Rookie of the Year I think is the one with Henry Rowan Gardner where he breaks his arm in this funky way and it heals weird to the point where he's got like this weird twitch and he can throw like 100-mile-an-hour fastball at like 11 or 12 years old, and essentially gets hired to the Cubs. And starts playing. So that's Rookie of the Year. And then
yeah,
Little
I
Big
like
League.
Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, but then Little Big League is when his grandpa dies, and he takes over the Twins for him. So another couple, man, maybe we should have a fourth category of children's sports movies. That could almost be one in its own right.
Sounds like we might have to.
God. We'll just continue on it from there. But number 10, I have Coach Carter. What do you have for number 9?
Number 9, it's probably going to be a controversial movie, but because of how I was raised, I watched it a lot. It's called Lords of Dogtown. It's a movie about like the creation of street skating and skateboarding as a competition.
Yeah, I saw The Lords of Dogtown years and years and years ago, and we were talking about it before the episode. I got to actually get back and watch it again because it's a phenomenal movie, great movie. I just don't know it as well as I should. So it didn't crack my top 10 list personally.
They're also supposed to be making it into a TV series here soon.
That's what you were saying. That would be incredible to watch. They're making a lot of old movies into TV series now, though.
Yeah, I think that's the new thing. Run out of ideas, so let's elongate something that people did like.
Yeah, it was remakes, like movie to movie. Now it's remakes movies to TV shows.
Or anything that was made in the early 1980s, early 1990s, late 80s, early 90s. Let's just redo it now. Call it a new show.
Yeah, you got to soak up all that nostalgia juice. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
So, so for number 9, I actually had a 90s movie as well. I had He Got Game with Denzel Washington and Ray Allen in it. The story of Jesus Shuttlesworth.
Great movie.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal movie. Very gritty. It's a Spike Lee flick. So if you're not familiar with, that kind of style of directing, don't watch it around your kids, but it's a phenomenal movie. I love it. It's just very raw. Kind of tells the story of a high school basketball phenom played by Ray Allen named Jesus Shuttlesworth. He's got a dad in prison for killing his mom. And it just covers kind of his recruitment, whether he's going to go to college, whether he's going to go pro. This is in the late 90s. So kind of definitely a different basketball environment that you see now. One of my favorite movies, though. That's why I have it at number 9. Plus, you can't hate a Denzel movie at all.
No, you can't. And it's very real, very raw.
Very, yeah, because like there's the time where like what is it, the pimp or whatever picks him up and he's talking about like all like the problems on the street. He's talking about motherfuckers doing drugs and they're like doing cutscenes like people smoking dope in abandoned houses and people fucking and shit like that. And it's just like it's a very raw and in your face movie.
Yeah, you're not wrong there.
So yeah, I do gotta love Spike Lee though for New York. That one's a classic. So yeah, at number 9 I got He Got Game.
It's a solid 9.
It's a something, yeah. Keeping it going on the list though. What do you got? 8.
My number 8 is actually going to be We Are Marshall.
We Are Marshall, great movie.
I think it's classic. It tells a story. There's drama side to it. A whole, team come together and rally around the accident. If you haven't seen it, hate to spoil it for you, but it's 2021. You should have seen it by now.
Yeah, so that was the one thing that I had heard about, just kind of being a young sports fan and everything, was just that Marshall football team. I mean, it was essentially the reason that freshmen are able to play in the NCAA. Not that it wouldn't have led there probably eventually, but I mean, that's the reason they play in the NCAA now, is because Marshall was allowed to field freshmen and, kind of as a recruiting preference because, well, they lost their whole entire football team besides, 3 players, I think it was?
Yeah, I believe it was 3.
Yeah, 3 players who ended up not going on the trip for different reasons. And so just nuts at the end of the day. But if you haven't seen it, once again, like you said, 2021, go check out We Are Marshall.
And you got a more serious Matthew McConaughey in it, too.
Well, McConaughey's got range. Like, if you've ever seen Dallas Buyers Club, he's amazing in that.
He's got tons of range. Honestly, probably top 10 actor all time.
Oh, yeah. Extremely disrespected. Like, he was a kind of rom-com actor in the early 2000s, but just seeing the movies he's probably done in the past 10 years.
They interviewed him on PMT earlier this year, towards the end of this year, and he said that because he was known as the rom-com guy, he took 2 years off and wouldn't field any offers or wouldn't do anything that was rom-com to try to get him out of that role so he could broaden his range and do other things.
Well, and it worked because you have him go with like movies like The Lincoln Lawyer, Dallas Buyers Club was another phenomenal movie, and I'll say it, even though it's kind of stereotyped down not to, he was great in Magic Mike. He fucking killed it in the drama parts of Magic Mike. Like, touch and go on that movie, but his character and his character acting in that movie, top notch.
But then, I mean, you go to his young days, like him in Dazed and Confused.
Yeah. Be a lot cooler if he did.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So
that's a line that gets used to this day.
Well, another line that hasn't aged so well is, you know what I love about 18-year-olds? I keep getting older
and they stay the same age.
Fucking classic. So showing some Matthew McConaughey love there at number 8 with We Are Marshall there.
What do you have at 8?
So at 8, I got Varsity Blues.
Ooh.
Classic. We got one time we were allowed to watch this on a football trip, and if you watch it, you'll understand why. Not super racy, but it's got a rated R title for a reason. That was the birth of the whipped cream bikini or whipped cream lingerie, however you want to call it. So fantastic plot there, but yeah, if you haven't seen Varsity Blues, it's just a great high school football movie. Kind of covers a variety of topics, like just the extreme, kind of ways of Texas high school football, how everybody's just super obsessed with it. Because, Paul Walker plays the star quarterback. He ends up going down, and then it follows James Vanderbeek's backup quarterback. I think he had what was his name? Like Moxon or something like that. It was super.
We got to shout out R.I.P. Paul Walker.
Yeah, R.I.P. Paul Walker. To the quarterback coach in that movie.
Oh, that one still hurts hearing that one.
I know, Paul. It still doesn't seem real.
No.
Like, 5, 6 years later? Not even 5, maybe?
It's been longer than that.
Yeah.
I was in high
3
school.
Fast movies.
I was in high school, so.
You were in high school when Paul Walker died?
Yeah.
Really? God, it was that long ago.
Yeah, I remember because we had a Spanish teacher named Mrs. Lip who absolutely loved him.
Oh, yeah, I love Mrs. Lip.
So she was pretty distraught that day as well.
So, yeah, I love Mrs. Lip. So, it's a funny side story here. And I just want to preface this in saying I have no preference. I love everybody and any sexuality whatsoever. But being a dickhead teenager, I used to walk into Mrs. Lip room every single day, and she had a Ricky Martin poster in there, and I would tell her consistently that Ricky Martin was gay. I would tell her, I'm like, hey, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just letting you know, like, I'm pretty sure he's gay. She's like, no, he's not. No, he's not. He's not gay. He's not gay. Well, sure enough, sophomore year, one day, right before Spanish 2, he came out of the closet, big article with People magazine and all this stuff. And it was, so my first class of the day is Spanish 2. So I walk in the room and Mrs. Lip just looks at me and she goes, don't even talk to me right now.
That's hilarious. I love Miss Lip. She was probably one of my favorite high school teachers I had for multiple years. She was a great Spanish teacher. I actually learned some things, and yeah, no, she was all character and fun to be around.
Yeah. So Mrs. Lip was probably my favorite teacher in high school, just because her kids went to daycare with my younger brothers at the time. They went to the same daycare on the west side. So safe to say, because she loved my brothers, she loved me, and I kind of got away with murder in that class. Like, I mean, I don't know how I passed Spanish 1 and 2 with A's, but I did.
Well, since we're going on this rant, you must not have had Buchholz or Templeton.
See, Buchholz I had as a coach, and then Tempe I had for current world affairs. But Miss Lip, like I said, she just let me get away with murder, so that's why I love her. Buchholz is a favorite, but like I said, I never had him as a teacher. I loved having Iverson as a teacher. Iverson was a lot of fun as a teacher. I remember as a prank, we did the Nuremberg trials, and he made me one of the head Nazis just because I was being a little dick that day. I was just like kind of giving him some shit, and we ended up stealing some of his stuff, putting it in Buchholz's classroom. Took Buchholz's podium, put it in Iverson's classroom, so that was kind of a nice little flip-flop we were doing that day.
That's hilarious because we used to do that stuff.
Oh.
We would go switch their podium. One time, our classmates literally took his podium all the way down to the gym and set it in the center of the gym floor.
Oh, yeah, the Buchholz podium stealing is just, it's a thing. Like, that was a thing from...
Well, I mean, he handmade his podium. How do you expect us not to steal it?
Exactly. God, we put it in the downstairs bathroom, the math hallway. I think we got it all the way down to the theater one time, and we put it in a theater seat. Just sitting there. Just in a theater seat, in the old theater.
Yeah, no, that was hands down. Buchholz was one of my favorite classes because we just messed with him, and he just messed with us. Like, one time I was sitting on top of my desk, and he told me not to sit on my desk, and I got down, I got back on my desk again. He just walks over and shoulder checks me off of my desk. And he looks at me and goes, "Hey, Sig, how'd you get on the ground?
Yeah.
You're not supposed to be down there?" Knowing damn well he shoved me, but it is what it is. I love that guy.
Oh, exactly. And like I said, Iverson did the same thing. Because he comes back in, he finds out, he's like, all right, where's my shit at? Because I think we stole, like, we put his phone. We actually put his phone in Mrs. Welch's room. Yeah, Miss Welch's room.
When she was there?
Yep. Yeah, when she was there. And then, yeah, hid a bunch of his shit elsewhere. And so it was myself and my buddy Tyler. And so we get back in there. He's like, well, good news is we're doing the Nuremberg trials today. Just got to make a couple of adjustments here. And Herman Goering, yeah, go ahead and just play him, Cole Blenner. And I'm like, fuck, all right, thanks for literally making me a Nazi.
See, I think one of our favorite ones is we switched Mr. Mahoney's and Mr. Buchholz's podiums because they're two total different size humans.
Yep.
And it was a classic. Mahoney could barely see over Buchholz's, and Buchholz's podium was down to his waist.
That is fantastic. I love the high school memories. We got so off track there. I was like, wait, are we even still talking about fucking episodes? Where were we at on the list?
We are on number 7.
We are.
Which I have Sandlot.
Sandlot. All right, fantastic. I have it on the list just a little bit higher. But no, I love the Sandlot. I mean, how can you not, though?
Yeah, no, Sandlot was great. It kind of was the first baseball movie that I watched besides Angels of the Outfield. Kind of tells you a little bit of story, a little bit of the history of the great Bambino, and you just kind of learn some stuff there.
Yeah, so I feel like that was kind of the one that reinvigorated some love for baseball movies, because you have the Sandlot in the 90s, and then you started getting a really good string of those. We talked about Little Big League. We talked about Rookie of the Year. Major League before that, I feel like in the sports comedy section, that's one I'll definitely bring up on their sports comedy podcast, is going to be Major League. I'm a huge fan of all of the movies, actually. The first one's the best, but I mean, even down to like Major League 3, which was like a straight to VHS movie, like they're all awesome. But yeah, The Sandlot is classic. It's timeless. Have you seen any of the sequels?
I saw Sandlot 2.
I love the Sandlot sequel. So Sandlot 2, that's the one from the 60s. Then they have Sandlot 3, which it's this guy who grew up to be like this big professional baseball player, and he's a huge dickhead. And so one day during batting practice, they're like having fireworks go off, and the pitcher rocks him in the head real fast. And so he actually ends up traveling back in time into the 70s. And so, like, from there, he gets to relive his childhood and everything, and actually changes it all. Like, you know, because he had they throw a little love story into it because he's got a little girlfriend and everything like that. But it's actually a pretty cool movie. Once again, it's a straight to VHS, low budget product, but it's got some decent acting in there. So yeah, go check out The Sandlot 3 if you've never seen it.
I might have to check that one out. I've never seen that one before.
Yeah, it's a good movie just to watch a couple of times. Because it came out like 2005 or 6 when so I watched it with my younger brothers when I would like babysit them. Solid movie. Holds up.
I'm gonna have to check that one out.
Yeah, go right ahead here. We just had our studio man, Paul Wolf, come right in the middle here. So we're going to go ahead and take just a break here. You're going to hear some sort of melody or something that we're going to put in the center of this track. I'm not quite sure what we're going to do yet, but we will be back with the rest of this list, starting off with my number 7 movie. With the number 7 on my list here is going to be The Wrestler, and that is going to be starring Mickey Rourke. It's, I believe, from about 2008, 2009. It tells the story of Ronnie Duran Ramathorn, a wrestler who was famous in kind of like the 80s and the 90s is kind of the time frame that they're giving, or, actually, I think it's back in the 70s because it's set in about the 90s. So, anyways, regardless, he's just kind of this bigger star, works for the bigger companies. He was making good money, during his prime, but this is kind of set. He's, mid 40s, body's broken down. He's working at a supermarket doing, these minor shows on the weekend. And it just kind of tells the harsh truth of what is actually goes on a lot in the wrestling scene.
Yes, that is actually a great movie. It didn't crack my top 10 because I think to crack my top 10, I've believed I've watched the movie 10 to 15 times, know it front to back. I've probably seen that movie about 3 times all the way through, but I do like it, and I think Mickey Rourke is a great actor and was perfect for the role he played.
Oh, he was phenomenal for the role that he played in there. Like I said, it's gritty. And actually, when I looked this list up through Rotten Tomatoes, it was the number 1 ranked sports movie of all time. When they consider sports comedies, they consider dramas, pretty much anything, any movie involving sports in some way, shape, or form. This was the number 1 rated movie.
Number 1, huh?
Yep.
I guess it does have it all. It has a really good storyline, great acting. It has like a plot line. There's rising action, falling action. Like it brings the whole, like when you're in English class, your points to a story of how you would write a story. It follows that very well.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a very clean written movie because there's so many different dynamics. There's him rebuilding the relationship with his daughter. There's this relationship he's starting with a professional dancer. The trials and tribulations with, he gets locked out of his trailer because he, didn't pay his rent on time. So he has to sleep in the back of his van and just, going along with the struggles of, what, to be honest, is a lot of, later years wrestlers. When you talk about, God, who is it? I'm trying to think of Kamala. Is one of the guys, he was a huge star, kind of foil for Hulk Hogan in the 90s and late 80s in the WWF, gets released afterwards, kind of goes around on the indie circuit, and he's someone now, because of diabetes, actually has lost both of his legs. There's been multiple times he's had, what is it, the fundraising sites, the GoFundMe up, so there's just been, a ton of times where he's kind of fallen on hard times, or if you've never seen it, one of the best documentaries that you can watch, period. It's called The Resurrection of Jake the Snake Roberts. It goes from taking Jake Roberts from when he's about 320 pounds. He's a drug addict. He's smoking meth, crack, drunk, and he's just like this huge addict, down on his times. Takes him at pretty much the lowest point of his life. Diamond Dallas Page, another wrestler, takes him in to his house, gets him clean, has him start doing yoga, losing weight and everything. And it's just kind of like the comeback story of how Jake Roberts came back around. And it's kind of crazy to see because as a wrestling fan, I see him, in AEW now as a manager, kind of thriving in his later years, not wrestling, but once again, kind of, doubling back to this huge rant here. It's just, the life of wrestlers is not an easy one.
No, it is definitely not. They put their body through more pain than any other sport. Physically, they go through the most surgeries, most broken bones. Yes, there is a stigma to it being scripted and fake and storylined, but the injuries are real. You can't fake a broken arm. You can't fake a surgery. Like, that is real.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously they sometimes fake injuries in kayfabe for storyline purposes, but yeah, those guys are going out there, and it's crazy even nowadays to hear like some of the disgruntled wrestlers who have left different companies and stuff hearing about performing like through just major injuries. They're like, yeah, I performed through a torn ACL for 6 months, and you just think about any other professional athlete, and that's not happening in any sport.
Not at all.
Not at all. So just crazy stuff there, but yeah, something that the wrestler kind of epitomizes and displays very well. I know that there was probably people within like the WWE that were not fans of this when it came out, but I mean,
I wish Klay Thompson could play through a torn ACL.
Yeah, right. I know they're like babying him back from, well, it's like his 3rd injury in a row at this point. So, anyways, to kind of cap it off, that was my number 7. So, through the top 7 there.
Top 7. Well, for my number 6, it's going to be kind of, we'll see how everyone feels about this one, but we got Hardball with Keanu Reeves.
Fucking great movie. I love it when you call me Big Papa. Throw your hands in the air, use a true player. Fucking great movie.
If you haven't seen it, it's about Keanu Reeves. He's kind of a ticket scalper, got some gambling issues, and he kind of takes on a little league team who seems like some inner city kids.
Yeah, it's in a Chicago project,
Yeah.
like literally like the projects.
Projects.
They're in Chicago. I forget the name of it, but yeah, big public housing building. And so yeah, he as a ticket scalper, I think it's community service, or he does it as a loan from like his friend or brother or something like that. I think a loan from his brother to coach this team or something, right?
I think so.
Yeah. Obviously, at the end of the day, ends up kind of turning this team around a little bit more with his knowledge of sports. Gets to know the team. There is some heartbreak in the movie. I'm not going to spoil that, but great pick. God, I'm looking at my list. I don't know if I'd probably include it at number 11 for me. I love Hardball. It wouldn't crack the list I made, but yeah, that's probably close number 11 there that I maybe glanced over.
Skipped over that one, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm a big fan of that movie. The Biggie scene, classic, brings things back, and then just the storyline there. It's just a feel good movie.
Oh, it's a great movie. Great movie. So yeah, so that was your number 6. I have a movie we talked about before, Invincible. So I know you kind of honorable mentioned that one. I love Invincible just because I'm a huge Mark Wahlberg fan. I think the story is great over and over again. It's got a little bit of cheese to it, but that's what I kind of like.
See, I think that one was just a little too Disney for me to crack my top 10. I watched it when I was a kid, but I don't think, if I was thinking now in times, I don't think I'm just laying down and like, yeah, I'm going to throw Invincible on and watch that.
True, but I'm also, maybe I'm nostalgia popping in a little bit there at 6.
But then I'm hitting Remember the Titans.
Oh, that I will still rewatch that too.
Yeah, if I'm going nostalgia, I'm going to watch Remember the Titans or We Are Marshall.
Yeah,
football. So.
Great movies. So, yeah, that was my number 6. We already kind of talked about Invincible. So, yeah, what was your 10 through 6 again?
My 10 through 6 to recap would be The Gridiron Gang at 9, Gridiron Gang at 10, Lords of Dogtown at 9, We Are Marshall at 8, Sandlot at 7, and Hardball at 6.
Gotcha. So, yeah, I got Coach Carter at 10. He got Game at 9. Varsity Blues at 8. The Wrestler at 7. Invincible at 6. And then I'll actually flip it around here, talk about a movie you already featured on the list. The Sandlot is probably my number 5.
The Sandlot is your number 5. Huh?
Yep, I love The Sandlot.
Well, let's hear your story on it.
So yeah, with The Sandlot, I just watched it a lot as a kid. I mean, I played baseball. I'd probably say baseball was probably my number 2 sport as a kid. Because, yeah, I followed it intensely, kind of switching between the Angels and the Twins at the time. The Twins and the Angels were always good, so I was always kind of, following it all year. We went to games in Minnesota all the time. I was a huge baseball fan as a kid, and kind of The Sandlot was part of the origin to that. I think it was one of the first baseball movies I got introduced to. Like I said, kind of the 3 for me that I've been kind of talking about are Rookie of the Year, Little Big League, and then The Sandlot, where they're like the first 3 kind of baseball movies I got introduced to. And then you talk about there's a couple of different ones. There's Mr. Baseball with Tom Selleck. Have you ever seen that one?
Yes.
Yeah, where he gets traded to Japan from the Yankees. Like he's like this former star and ends up getting traded to Japan. So I just love older movies. They're not necessarily.
So what about Mr. 3000 then?
Mr. 3000, great movie. Bernie Mac kills it
all time.
Because he had to come back for what, 4 hits? Is what he had to come back for?
I think it was 3. Yeah, I think he had 297, and then they're talking about how he couldn't do it, so the dude drops the beer bottle, and then he catches it before it breaks or whatever, and that's exactly how long you're supposed to have to the ball gets to the pitcher. So he goes through all the training because he finds out 3 of his hits didn't count. But yeah, that was definitely on my honorable mentions too. I skipped over that one on my list when I was just reading a couple of them off.
Yeah, no, I love Mr. 3000. Baseball movies are just so well done because even like the B movies.
It's almost like we could do a top 10 baseball movies.
We probably should have, like in retrospect, but fuck it, we'll continue because I still have. Take a look here.
Oh, I have another baseball movie coming up on my list. Yeah, I have
another baseball movie too.
And then since we skipped off the comedy side, I mean, Bad News Bears is one of my all-time favorite. Butterworth.
Mr. Buttersworth. It's like, we tied the baseball game today, boys. And they say a tie is a lot like kissing your sister. But with the way we've been playing recently, it's like kissing a really hot stepsister.
All-time line.
Fucking great line from the from the new version. Because the old one's really good. I like the new one a little more. Billy Bob Thornton kind of brings some edge to it, but the old one's great.
I like the new one a lot more than the old one. just because it was more our time, a little more modernized. But the old one is still funny. I've seen it, but I like the Billy Bob Thornton version a little more, just because I kind of like him a little more.
Billy Bob is an underrated range actor, because when you consider like the range of movies he's been in and the person he is, to think about it, he plays like very serious roles. In what was it, like Armageddon? He plays a very serious role, but then turns right around and then he's in Bad News Bears. He's just I love Billy Bob Thornton as an actor. He's fucking phenomenal.
Oh yeah, he's got range.
Yeah, range. So, but yeah, anyways, 5 Sandlot for me. So that was probably my number 5 there.
Well, number 5, we'll keep it on the baseball topic. We're going to go Moneyball, Brad Pitt.
Great movie. Great movie. Honorable mention for me.
I liked it because it was a little more modern. It's one that I'll throw on now just because it's intriguing. Like, you'll continuously watch it even though you know what's going to happen.
Yeah, and I think when you talk about impactful movies, this was really coming around kind of at the beginning of the analytics movement, but I think Moneyball, when that movie comes out and gets so much attention, gets so much recognition for being a great movie, I think that's when you kind of saw the kick up in analytics. Like, analytics became mainstream in baseball, because obviously it's been being done since the 80s and 90s, but in a very small scale, like advanced statistics and everything like that. But it seems like that's what baseball's run on now. It's everybody doesn't talk about home runs and batting average. It's all about WAR, OPS, and
it's definitely changed a lot. But yeah, I really like that movie. I think Brad Pitt does a phenomenal job in his acting, and Jonah Hill plays his part perfectly.
Oh, Jonah Hill. I mean, when you want to talk about another guy with range, phenomenal in that movie. And I remember that athletics team, because that was an incredibly interesting story that year, with them rattling off their 20 straight wins. Kind of everybody thought that they, would end up winning the World Series if they had, this very underrated team, with like Eric Chavez, I think they had at third base as one guy. I remember Miguel Tejada, Jermaine Dye. I mean, they put together this team, right after losing Jason Giambi, Johnny Damon, marquee players who went on and, played great for other teams. But yeah, it was just, it's a great movie, and it just kind of explains how, well, the Athletics have managed to have one of the smallest payrolls in the past 20 years. Still managed a lot of really good playoff success, and no titles, but some playoff success.
They make it.
Yeah, they get there. They get to the dance. They just they don't ever win. So I guess that was number 5. So 4 here. Well, let's keep the theme with baseball movies, because I'm going to go with The Rookie. You want to talk about cheesy Disney movies? This one tops the list for me. I love Dennis Quaid in this, because this is just cheesy enough, but it's just really good. I mean, it talks about a high school coach who, used to be a major league prospect, ends up, meeting Tommy John a couple of different times, and unfortunately, kind of flames out. Well, as the years go on, his arm kind of, starts to get back into it. Leads his high school team to a state championship, and then ends up going for a tryout. Sure enough, just goes through the major leagues and ends up actually making his major league debut for the Tampa Bay Devil Rays, which they were the Devil Rays at the time, not just the Rays.
They were the Devil Rays at the time. Yeah, no, that one, honestly, I've only seen it a handful of times, so I don't know that movie as front to back as it seems you do.
I love it.
But I did like it the times I've seen it. It was good. It does have some impactful moments, and then, it's got the rising action and the falling action. And there is definitely a climax point, and I don't want to spoil that for anyone who may or may not have seen it.
Oh, it's great. Just go out and check out The Rookie with Dennis Quaid in it. Phenomenal movie. Great movie. So kind of a little back and forth too, like kind of checks out like how he grew up, how he played baseball, how it's impacted his life. And then another crazy thing that I probably love about the movie is we used to have family in Big Lake, Minnesota. And the town that they're playing out of is in Big Lake, Texas. So when I was a kid, I thought that was really cool. I was like, oh my God, because, Big Lake, Minnesota is a very small town. And so is Big Lake, Texas. So, but yeah, that would be, my number 4 would be The Rookie.
My number 4, we are going to switch sports to America's Game. And we're going to go with Draft Day with Kevin Costner.
That'll be further to come for me.
That'll be further to come for you.
But yeah, so actually, you know what? We'll kind of maybe lightly touch on that one, because I'm going to break the fuck down where mine is, because I'll spoil it right now. That's my number 1.
Well, if that's your number 1, we'll just move on the list and we can break that one down in a little bit.
Sounds good. So moving on to number 3 here, going down on the list, I have Remember the Titans.
We are tied.
Yep.
I have Remember the Titans at 3 as
and
well.
Number 3, there we fucking go. Yes.
Great minds do think alike sometimes.
Yes, sometimes. And you'll probably see when it comes to sporting opinions, we definitely have different ones. I'm looking forward to the draft on Sunday because I feel like that's going to be, and we're actually recording our draft episode right after this. That's going to drop before this episode. So I'm really excited to kind of talk draft with you and see, kind of what your overall big board opinions are. And then I'm excited just to draft against you and see what your strategy is, because I think we're both going to be some pretty interesting GMs come Sunday.
Done a lot of research for my teams. As people have probably heard when this episode comes out, you'll see what I've done.
Yep, exactly. Results to come. We can't spoil anything because we don't know yet. So, number 2. So for number 2,
when I'm breaking down Remember the Titans about
fuck me. Yes. All right. So Remember the Titans. Ciglen, take it away.
Remember the Titans. It's played on every football trip. It's not in every other. That is played on every football trip.
It was the first one played for our class.
Whether it's on the way down or on the way back, that is one that's played on every football trip. You gotta love the story, how the team comes around each other. You got the story of Sunshine. You remember, there's just so many iconic characters that you remember, and it's a movie that you can throw on and I will watch.
It's an amazing movie. It has, you laugh, you feel good, you almost cry because of happiness, you almost cry because of sadness. You feel all of the emotions.
Yeah, it tugs.
When you talk about all of the range, you talk about, amazing acting from like a young Hayden Panettiere, which I think she actually almost steals the movie. As a kid, she was fucking hilarious. Obviously, I grew up and still have an amazingly huge crush on her because she was like in that time frame for me. So not creepy there. I was 6 when she was in that movie. So, I liked her then. Obviously, I like her as an adult now. But, Denzel Washington is a phenomenal actor in there too.
Oh, yeah. That is... As a young kid, that is what made me a Denzel fan. And then growing up and watching some of his older films that probably wouldn't have been as kid-friendly. So, yeah, I love me some Denzel Washington.
Well, then also Ryan Gosling is in there like as a secondary. I wouldn't say like back up, but a secondary role as Alan something. I just know him as Alan, his first name, because he looks like an Alan in that movie. He plays, the free safety who always fucks up on coverage and then ends up coming around and playing good.
Yep.
So just a great movie. I swear, if you have not seen Remember the Titans, get out from under your rock. Go see Remember the Titans. It's a fantastic, I have it as my number 1 football on field based movie. Because obviously I said Draft Day is my number 1. So, but yeah, as far as on field football, number 1 hands down.
Yeah, no. Well, for me, it's number 2 because around the time that I came out, we'll just jump right ahead.
Yeah.
My number 2 is going to be the story of the great Michael Oher, and that is The Blind Side with Sandra Bullock. I absolutely love that movie. When it first came out, that was when I was at the most love with football at the time. I probably watched that movie 100 times the first year it came out, so I have a lot of love for that movie, and it's real. It kind of shows you some things. And other people may not have the opinion or think it's such a great movie, but I really did enjoy it. I know Michael Oher himself thinks there were some things wrong with it, but for the cinematic verse of the movie, I thought it was a really done good movie.
I think it was done really well for a Hollywood cinematic aspect. And with any true story, Hollywood is always going to glamorize it, and you're not going to get everything because I don't think that makes for good storytelling. You have to get this mixture of storytelling and truth. Like, you don't want to betray the truth. At the same time, you gotta tell a good story for people to watch.
Well, I remember like a thing that really bothered people is like they portray the family as like kind of seeing Michael Oher as like a meal ticket, and they were trying to get him to go play where they wanted him to play, and that wasn't the case at all. They just wanted to help someone out and help him get out on his own. Like they're a really good family, and they still keep in contact to this day.
Oh yeah, like if you actually look at them, like they're huge in charity. I remember. One thing is people started like attacking them one day because they were like Trump supporters. I'm like, who the fuck cares? I'm like, if you actually look into, they're decent like local business owners. I mean, the Tui family owns several local restaurants down in the Nashville area. So
I'm pretty sure they're just fast food chains.
Yeah. They just own like Taco Bells and stuff like that. But
Taco Bells, Wendy's, a few things like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. But as the movie goes, I love the movie, the story. You got the part where they go get him clothes for the first time, and that was the first time I've ever actually seen a store called Big and Tall. I always thought those were just fake made up, but And then he gets him in like the polo shirt, and he's like, "That's what you want to wear?"
Yep. Yeah, when he gets the big old polo shirt, he's just cheesing.
Yeah, I just really like the movie a lot.
It's a fantastic movie. No, The Blind Side's good. I don't know. It probably didn't even really make my honorable mentions list just because I like it and all. It's a little less sporty than I like. I mean, they kind of throw like football right in the middle, and obviously it's based on a guy, who plays in the NFL. Shout out to Michael Oher, also too. So, good offensive tackle, former first round pick. But yeah, fucking phone buzzing here. But yeah, I was just looking at my list and I realized I fucked up at number 2 because we're doing fighting movies, and I threw on a fighting movie.
Well,
but you know what? I'm gonna put it in both because it's just that good. Number 2 is literally still a top 10 movie for me overall because Draft Day is my favorite movie. But number 2 is Creed. Creed is my favorite Rocky movie. Everybody can dog me for it. That's fine. The original Rocky series is fantastic. But Creed is written perfectly.
Oh, I agree with you fully. And like I said, when we first got in here to record this episode, I was like, all right, I feel that we need to break this down because either my list is going to be a bunch of fighting movies or a bunch of sports comedies.
I was trying to set everything up and I got fucking distracted.
That's where we got the idea of like splitting them up because I originally had Creed as number 3 or 4 on my list.
Yeah.
And then I had a couple other fighting movies on there and a few other comedies. But since changing it, I do agree with you. Creed is number 2. It'll probably be my number 1 movie on the fighting list. Spoiler alert now. So
yeah. Oh yeah.
But
it's going to be my number 1.
I love Creed. Michael B. Jordan is a phenomenal actor with everything he's done, with every facet of where he started coming up from. So I'm a huge fan of him. Even when he was on this show. He was on just an ABC sitcom for a while, and I loved him there. So, big fan of his, and I definitely do agree that Creed should be number 2. And from there on, let's go break down Draft Day, because they're going to hear us break down Creed on a whole nother episode.
Exactly, yeah, we'll break down Creed. So, Draft Day, number 1.
That's your number 1.
I'm going to start off here with the story of, what was his name? Sammy something Jr.
Sonny.
Sonny. Yeah, Sonny. Why am I literally blanking on this? I had it in my brain for 10 minutes.
Sonny Weaver Jr.
Sonny Weaver Jr. So, fuck me. It's my favorite movie ever. I don't remember the guy's last name. This is just how much of a space cadet I am. But all right. Sonny Weaver Jr. is the general manager of the Cleveland Browns, which I love how they chose the Browns for this because the Browns are famous for having horrible drafts before this movie.
Well, and I believe that year they actually had the first round pick.
They did. They
had the first overall pick.
Or I think that year maybe they had which year because it came out in like 2014, and that was when they drafted because they had just drafted or they were just about to draft Johnny Manziel. Yeah, because it came out April 7th, 2014, so the 2014 first round. Sorry, before we break down the fucking movie here, let's just look up some draft shit because we'll be talking about it right after here. So the draft happened on May 8th. They did not have the number 1 pick because Jadeveon Clowney went to the Texans that year. God, yeah, this is... So if you were talking the Browns, they had the 8th overall pick, but they fucked up that year. So another slip up. They got Justin Gilbert. Oklahoma State turned out to be nothing but toast in the NFL. And then, yep, that was the year they famously went and traded back into the first round and drafted Johnny Manziel. So, pause here 1 second. We'll be right back to talk about Draft Day. So, yeah, when you talk about Draft Day, you're talking about a great movie, Sonny Weaver Jr., general manager of the Cleveland Browns, going out and he has the number 8 pick in the draft. And they kind of set the premise with the Seahawks having the number 1 pick, and there's the star quarterback, Bo Callahan.
Yep.
And he's pretty much we're going to kind of look at like the Trevor Lawrence of this draft class. He's apparently tested, proven. I mean, your blue chip of blue chip quarterbacks. I mean, like if you're going to stereotype like a Hollywood aspect, I feel like he's your perfect. He was the perfect like QB1 that would probably eventually fail. You know what I mean? Like I was looking at it and I'm like, yeah, if you're a sports fan, you're like bust. But like as a non-sports fan, he's probably your typical QB1 in the draft.
Yeah, no, for sure. He looks the part, but then you never know how that part always goes.
Yeah. So anyways, kind of as the movie keeps going on, a little bit, 15, 20 minutes into the movie, he ends up trading 3 first round picks for the number 1 pick. So he trades the number 8 pick, their first round pick the next year, and their first round pick the year after that to move from number 8 to number 1. Kind of reminiscent of what the Niners did this year, trading the 12th pick to move up to the 3rd pick, and they traded their first round pick the next year in 2022, and then they're trading their 2023 first round pick as well. So kind of get scrutinized for it. Obviously, a lot of people in the building are kind of unhappy because they have this quarterback who's been injury ridden before, but he's supposed to be coming back and he looks better than ever. Brian Drew, right?
Yep.
So who's your stereotypical, I feel like, just underdog, good guy quarterback? Like, the cheese is there in this movie, but I love it because it's played so well. Like, you even have Joe Thomas in there, who obviously, if you're a Browns fan or NFL fan, you know he was the face of the Browns for 10 years as a left tackle. I mean, Hall of Fame player. But yeah, and so, just kind of goes throughout the day because there's this linebacker they're looking at. There's a running back who his dad used to play for Cleveland, in the draft day universe. And so there's kind of a lot of different picks. There's like this top 4 or top 3, that they're kind of looking at between all these players, this running back, this linebacker, this quarterback. And so they kind of go in throughout the day. And if you're an NFL fan, just like the behind the scenes of it, I love it. Just you talking about working with the scouting department, all the different scouts and everything that's going on. I mean, what are your some favorite parts of the movie?
The part where he's really contemplate, like after he makes the draft, like after he makes the trade,
mm-hmm.
and he goes back and he's just like sitting in his office, just really contemplating, like, was that the move? I feel like that's the most realistic thing that actual NFL GMs do.
Yeah, like closes the door and then
closes the door and just like, did I really just do that?
Yeah.
Did I need to do that? Was that just quick thinking, So I think that like really depicted like a realness of the movie, and that is honestly one of my favorite scenes. But then I also love the character that Chadwick Boseman plays, again, just because he's one of my favorite actors. We've said it enough. But
Vontae Mack.
Yep.
Vontae Mack number 1. Just remember that. It's what he puts in his, because that is with the cinematic quality there, because the callback. When he's sitting there in his house, beginning of the day, you see him write something on a sticky note, put it into his pocket, and you forget about it the entire movie. And then you see him pull out the sticky note right after he makes the draft pick, because he walks in there, he drafts Vontae Mack, a linebacker who he could have drafted at 8. Yep. They estimate he was probably going to slip into the mid-teens, early 20s, maybe even out of the first round altogether. Then he takes him number 1 and walks out of the room, and it's like the slow motion walk. Everybody's kind of going like, what the fuck just happened? What are you doing? They're yelling at him. The coach is pissed off. The owner's just in absolute amazement because the owner's there thinking he's at the draft, thinking they're going to draft this quarterback,
Bo Callahan.
Yeah, they're like, because he told him, he's like, Sonny, you're picking Bo Callahan. That's what's happening. And so as he walks out, you look in the sticky note and it's all crumpled up and it says, Vontae Mack, no matter what.
Yeah, no, that was probably my second favorite scene.
Well, and then he swings the fucking greatest trade. Pim's Castle, what's your hassle? Let's answer the phone.
What's up?
Who you talking to, Ciglen?
Are you just recording one more episode? Did you want to come break down some draft picks? No.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be some dead air time.
Yep, we'll have to fix that.
Yeah, Paul's going to hate us for this episode.
Yeah, give him some.
Yeah, cut it up in the editor's way.
We love you, Paul.
But yeah, back to draft day. When he turns around, and so he drafts Vontae Mack first, and then Bo Callahan starts to fall in the draft. And obviously, spoiler alert, we're spoiling the whole fucking movie at this point. So Bo Callahan starts to fall, and it looks like that the Seahawks, who are now sitting at number 8, are going to be poised to take him because he falls back past these quarterback needy teams who end up going elsewhere. There's a couple of teams in the mid, usually your teams who are kind of picking, I feel like 5, 6, 7. Traditionally, like they have a young quarterback, but they just are kind of still raw. So those teams never pick quarterbacks. You don't see quarterbacks really taken in that range, so he keeps falling. And it's looking like the Seahawks not only gave up the number 1 pick, and they're starting to get scrutinized. Like their GMs, throughout the course of this movie, he's starting to get, like lynch mobs outside of his office, calling for his head because he traded away the chance to draft this quarterback. But now, that's a possibility again. So what Sonny Weaver does is he calls the Jacksonville Jaguars, who have the 7th pick right in front of his old pick, the 8th pick. And he offers this brand new GM who's super nervous. He's, wondering, what the hell's going on? Should we draft this guy? Should we pass on him? What's going on? So he offers him 3 second-round picks for the 7th pick. and then ends up jumping ahead of him, says he plans on taking Bo Callahan, gets all of his picks back and a special teams returner from Seattle. So in the end of the day, he gets the number 1 pick, the number 7 or the number 8 pick, in which they end up picking up the running back who his dad, played by Terry Crews, used to play for the Browns as well. I can't remember his name. We'll look it up here.
Earl Jennings.
Earl Jennings, yep. Earl Jennings Jr. is who they pick up. So they end up getting their star running back, their star linebacker that they need for their team. Brian Drew stays at quarterback.
It was actually Ray Jennings, and it was played by Arian Foster.
That's right. I forgot it was Arian Foster who played that, because he's so clean cut. Yep. Like Arian Foster looks different when he's clean cut, because he always had like the nice big like beard and like sideburns in the NFL. But yeah, I forget that he played Ray Jennings.
Yep, it was Ray Jennings.
Ray Jennings Jr. Yep. So yeah, obviously at the end of the day, you know, it's I love it personally because like when you swing those kind of trades, like the ones that Madden wouldn't even accept, you're just like, fuck yeah, get it, bitch.
It's nothing better.
Yeah, nothing better than that. So it's personal triumph. And I'm someone who, I play Madden. I love going through the draft, even though EA, you need to fix your damn draft mechanics. That needs to be a way better part of the game. The draft simulator was better in 2008 than it is in modern games. Side rant over, but still, I mean, yeah, we both love Draft Day. It's a phenomenal movie.
Alrighty. And to my number 1.
Drum roll.
The Test of Time. The man, the myth, the legend. People call the GOAT himself. Teaming up with Bugs Bunny to take on the Monstars. We got Space Jam.
That didn't make it to your sports comedy list. Space Jam, really at number 1. I like Space Jam,
is my all-time favorite sports movie. I will watch that movie to this day 3 to 4 times a year. Like, if I can't think of anything, I will turn on Space Jam. And depending on how good Space Jam 2 is gonna be, or actually turns out to be, Space Jam 2 could be my new go-to movie for a while. But I love the Looney Tunes growing up personally, so they really connected with me. And then that was like the movie that taught me a lot about basketball. And, you know, you always still got to this day, Michael's Secret stuff is like
Michael's Secret stuff,
an iconic item that you'll see floating around the internet to this day.
Michael's Secret stuff, it's just water.
It's just water.
Yeah, just water. Space Jam is a legendary movie. I love it. God, I kind of feel stupid. I'd honorable mention it. I wouldn't throw it on the top 10 list, but I don't know. I kind of thought of that more for the comedy. But yeah, I love Space Jam. Fucking great movie. So hyped for the second one. So hyped for the second one.
I'm very hyped for the second one.
Yeah. The callback to the D-Wade LeBron alley-oop, though, was phenomenal with Lola Bunny ooping him.
That is funny.
Yeah. So good callback there. But yeah, pretty solid top 10 list there overall. I think we have, you know, some great movies. If we left anything out, I mean, feel free to roast us online savagely.
Yeah, definitely. But for our top 10, there's our top 10 on just sports movies, and keep your eyes peeled for fighting movies and sports comedies.
Yeah. So, yeah, thanks for joining us once again. We appreciate you guys. That was Sig. I'm the Big, and we are out. 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 Out.